Hi guys. Okay. We're just as aggravated as last night, but I think we're a little bit more rational and clear-headed right now. So, we are in this video we're going to be addressing the plot holes. And first we want to just come out and say, please do not get it twisted. We've discussed this. It is not the fact of who they went with. Granted, of course, we'd be liars if we said that we honestly...
We weren't disappointed when we saw Cece's ass turn around. And it has nothing to do with being right, because in multiple videos we have said, and you could go back and watch them, that we would rather it not be Ren. Of course, we wanted it to be Ren, but we also wanted to be surprised. We were not surprised. We were disgusted. No.
You know what, though? I think we should have been a little bit more clear, because we did say we wanted to be shocked. I was fucking shocked last night, but not in a good way. And we'll explain to you why. It's not the who. It's the fact that they literally took the three most important characters on this show. You have, other than the liars, the three most important characters on the show.
You have A,
Redcoat,
and Black Veil.
And Black Widow.
Whatever.
And they made these three most important characters on the show the two most, to us anyway, very irrelevant characters. I'm not saying that Cece was very irrelevant. Cece's always been a suspect of mine. I really thought that Cece was going to be Redcoat.
That's what we have said.
We've said that. I really thought that Cece was going to be Redcoat. And
we also said Sarah Harvey.
Mm-hmm, and to make her part of the game was one thing, and to even make Sarah Harvey part of the game was another. But here's our problem. Here's our problem. They took somebody. I feel like, I don't care what anyone says. We're not being disrespectful towards anybody. If you thought it was Cece and good for you guys. We are not trying to argue like, how dare they suck. Oh my God. But in all honesty, like, it's not even the fact that we didn't get answers last night. It's the fact that the story that was told made no sense with the story that we were given beforehand. And
for Marlene King to go back and to try to pull damage control and say, the age of the people that play... Again, we just had this discussion. So you're telling me, out of the multiple kids that you've had on this show, you couldn't have put a kid in there, like a younger person, and had Marion Kavanaugh address said person as Toby?
I said, even...
So we're supposed to believe that Keegan Allen and Sasha Peterson were 10 years old.
Not even 10.
Okay, fucking 7 years old.
At the time that it happened, those, at that flashback, at that moment in time, in that flashback, Toby, if he had been maybe 2 years older than Allison would have had to have been about maybe 3 or 4 years old. And Toby would have had to have been about maybe 5 or 6, if that. So... to take somebody that's a 30-year-old playing a 20-year-old is one thing, but to take somebody that's a 30-year-old and try and pass it off and say that it's interpretive and we should have realized that they were 4 in that flashback.
Sure,
absolutely.
Why not?
So, like I said, we are going to talk about the holes. But before we talk about the holes, we want to say... we want to put it out there. It was not the fact that they went with Cece. Had they had gone with Cece and in a different way.
Yes.
Because we said it's not the trans thing. It's not even that. But if they had wanted to go with Cece, one, there should have never been a relationship between Jason and Cece.
Absolutely not.
And
if they planned it from how long they say they've planned it,
it would have been absolutely fine with us. We wouldn't have loved it, and it wouldn't have been something that was, something that made us like okay with it. But it would have definitely been a better story had, one, Cece not been with Jason, and two, Cece Charles faked his death at 16, like they said, and never returned to Radley, that would have been a completely different story.
But
it would have been
considering she
absolutely
sat
more
there
plausible.
having discussions with Mona while in a red bathrobe as opposed to a red coat.
Yeah.
Obviously, she was still in Radley, so...
Because that's what we're saying. If our main reason for Cece never of being a suspect is, one, let's all be honest, 90% of the people out there narrowed out any female because they had said that they were not doing a transgender kind of thing. They said that they were not going that route. And granted, they lied before. But how do you expect anybody to figure anything out if we can't get the answers? So immediately, Cece was not a suspect of ours because we didn't think that she was going to be a dude turned woman. We did in the beginning until they said they weren't doing transgender. And we also narrowed her out because, again, let's be real. Jason's really batting 1,000 here. And that's 2 out of 4 sisters that he's had, or 2 out of 4 family members that he's had incest with.
But they didn't have sex and he was frustrated regardless of that fact.
He still thought of her that way, which is disturbing because she might have been aware.
Not on his part because he wasn't aware, but on her part for even that's
letting it get to
exactly
that point.
That is wrong on so many levels.
So
that
we didn't have Cece as a suspect because they gave us no reason. They gave us many reasons not to suspect her. And some people might argue, well, that's what they're there for and that's supposed to be good. And, well, not really, because it doesn't make the story plausible. It doesn't make the story
and neither
okay.
do the plot holes.
So let's just hop into it. Again, we'll say it. We're not arguing the fact that it
more
was
than
Cece.
likely going to be
a two-parter.
A two-parter, maybe more. Who knows?
Yeah, we're not, again, we'll say it. We're not arguing the fact that it was Cece. We're not. We're not arguing the fact that it was transgender. We're not. It's just that they literally took somebody and ignored their complete backstory. So that's why we're upset. All right. So then you have the whole Mrs. D, Allison Cece prank, where Mrs. D comes flying home. Where are you? She's like, I'm in here, blah, blah, blah. She goes and slams the piano down and she's like, you almost took off my freaking fingers. Well, she says, I get a call from Radley. They have my daughter. I rush down there, blah, 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 but it's not my daughter. No, she's dressed in my daughter's clothes from head to toe. It's Cece Drake. Well, wasn't she a patient already at Radley? So if I'm going to assume that if she was at Radley, why would the staff be like, yeah, we have Allison De La Rentas here. We have her daughter here, and we need you to come get her. They would recognize her. They would know she's a fucking patient there. So that's like a very big plot hole. Not to mention that Mrs. D they made it seem like Mrs. D was very secretive. First of all, she didn't even let her husband know that about Cece, aka Charles, whatever. But she was very open and willing to give just so much information to the girls when they were asking.
Yeah.
They were like, well, the girls were asking, and she was telling them that story because they were asking about if she knew Dr. Palmer. And she's like, well, I only met him once, and that's when the whole Cece thing happened. And Dr. Palmer said that it was a toxic relationship and to keep Cece and Allison away from each other. But she just, like, divulges all this information to these girls, but yet you're supposed to be protecting her and not wanting anybody to know about her.
Makes sense. Yep.
But she was supposed to be a patient at Radley. Number 1. Okay? Number 2. Can someone please, I know that this has been flying around on Twitter, somebody please needs to explain how the hell, if Cece, which she confirmed, it's not something that we're assuming, she confirmed last night that she was in fact still a patient at Radley when Mona was there. She was still a patient. Why, first of all, you would assume that Ren would know her if she was a patient.
But yet Cece Drake called him because she was concerned.
Cece Drake called him because she was concerned for Mona's well-being, and she wanted to be able to help Mona. So he gave her a visitor's pass and almost got fired for it. Well, if she's a fucking patient there and she was sneaking out of her room to go visit Mona, what the hell did she need a visitor's pass for? What, like, right? Okay. Then we go to the fact that Cece had a roommate. The only thing that was explained in the episode last night was the fact that Mrs. D got an okay for her to go take classes at college. Not, you can come and go as you please here. We'll set you up with an apartment. We'll get you a roommate. You could stay on campus. You never have to come back to
Until
Bradley.
Allison gets you kicked out.
Yeah. Why? How would she have a roommate? How would she have an apartment that Emily went to go visit her at? Like, again, we're not arguing the who, but the how. None of it makes any sense. It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. Then we have the fact that Wilden supposedly was paid off to cover up Marion Kavanaugh's death.
Meanwhile, he's the same age as Cece.
Which means that would make him a cop at around 10 to 12.
But considering the town of Rosewood and how you become a cop in 10 seconds, I would not be surprised.
Again, it's really
That kid
comical.
is really good at playing cops and robbers.
Let's put him on the force.
Like, are you kidding me?
Again, plot hole. Then we have the whole thing that we tweeted last night that got over 1,000 retweets. Like, holy fuck. Marion motherfucking Kavanaugh. And the whole Toby and Allison thing, which we discussed in the beginning of the video. We don't really need to go too much more into it. But
you guys already know, because a lot of you have been commenting the same thing. But how the fuck does that
Marlene
chronologically,
King,
like...
But Marlene King wants us to believe that in that flashback that we see Toby and Allison, it's interpretive. And they were supposed to be... They were supposed to be 4 and 6.
Because, you know, this is how you get answers to a television show that you're watching. Assume that everything you're watching is a fucking dream. Because if that's the case, I'm going to assume that last night's episode was all a fucking dream.
But that's the thing. Like, how do you expect anybody to, like, go back and be like, oh, I see it now?
It makes so much sense! No.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So we see that Cece literally has been in Radley since they dropped little Chuckarino off, has been in Radley, regardless of if, you know, has been, sneaking out, whatever the case may be, going to fucking college, whatever, but has been in Radley up until God knows when. We don't know when she got out, but we do know that it was sometime after Mona was there, because she was still a patient there. So she spent a whole summer in Cape May with the De Laurentiis family. Not a problem. Sure.
Go for it.
You have mental issues, and you're supposed to be here for your safety and for the safety of
take
others.
the fuck off out of the state and enjoy yourself.
But we're supposed to just ignore that, I think.
Yeah, that's another interpretive scene. They never went to Cape May. It was all in her head as she was fucking washing dishes in Radley's fucking kitchen.
All right, we have to